Hello.
Hello, la la la. I think we're both in a Seinfeld mood. It just came out.
This is the timing's unbelievable on this.
Man, so Justin Jackson, what a guy.
What a guy.
Had to have spent hours clipping that together, right?
Hours and hours and hours. Yeah,
Gotta
crazy.
be.
Yeah, if you haven't seen, we'll post it up and everything, but Justin Jackson, friend of the show, friend of mine for many years, did a super cut of the podcast with Seinfeld, and
It's uncanny.
It's uncanny. I was in tears laughing. So
I was
funny.
dying laughing.
So good. It's so well done. It's just spot on. So yeah, I don't know. Thank you, Justin, for that. But yeah, just wow. Blew me away.
I just walked into the living room where my wife and my mom and the au pair were, and I was like, hey, can I put this thing on the TV and show you this video? We're like, what's going on?
Like, what is this?
So freaking funny.
It is. And I mean, we've talked about that it is kind of like that, but then when you see it
side by side, like, yeah.
Oh. And I even posted this to Justin. I was like, now I'm questioning if I even have any original thoughts. Like maybe we're just channeling, millions of hours of Seinfeld into the show here. I don't know.
Yeah, after I showed my mom, she was explaining Seinfeld to our au pair, and my mom was saying that, like, we grew up on that. Like, our whole family, me and my brother grew up watching so much Seinfeld, and I think it is like it's just been internalized.
Yeah, that's great. And it's funny because like you're probably a little young to have seen it live, right? Or were you guys watching it the end of it still live?
I don't know if I was watching it live. What was the last season?
Geez, I think it was like 99.
I think that's right. I think it was 98 or 9. Friends and Seinfeld ended pretty close, but I think it was 98 or 9. Yeah, and I would have been, I think, 10 in 99. So
yeah,
I don't think we were watching it live, but I think my brother and I watched the reruns over and over and over.
Reruns, man. That's where like it just got into my brain from the reruns, because like 11. So before it was streaming and all that, like 11 p.m. on WPIX in New York here anyway, like it would just be on every night. It just obviously a random rerun, and it's like I just watch that every night, just every single night. So good.
Yep. Somebody once asked on Twitter, like, how do I get better? They weren't asking me, they were just asking the Void, and the question was like, how do I get better at like low stakes, casual small talk? And my like unironic answer was watch Seinfeld straight through. Like, watch it fully straight through, and you will start to internalize like you can basically make a conversation out of anything,
out of just a few words.
Yes, exactly. So
you're a big straight through guy. This is a theme. This is one of your themes.
For sure.
Straight through.
Very much a completionist.
Seinfeld, yes,
big time. Yep. Love to have the full set. Love to know the full canon.
Yeah. Seinfeld especially, I think, is really good in that it pays off a lot. Like a lot of sitcoms, they're just like they're really isolated, like every episode, or maybe there's an arc of a couple episodes, but that's it. But like especially from midpoint on, like Seinfeld, like each season would have an arc, and then like there would be arcs that cut across even multiple seasons to some, not full arcs, but like people would return and whatever. There would be things they go back to and re-reference. So yeah, like if you watch the whole thing through, you really do get a lot of payoff.
Yeah, it does compound, because then you start to get a catalog of like the close talker, the low talker, the loud talker. You get all like, oh, they're doing a running bit here. And honestly, the learning how to do a good callback joke, I feel like I learned a lot from Seinfeld. Like, how do you make the joke, and then 21 minutes later at the end of the episode, how do you make the joke again as a callback? And
and their character, like they stayed in character so well, and I feel like that's even a thing people can pick up on. Yeah, whether it's on Twitter or a podcast or whatever, there is like this element of entertainment that you're doing, and it's like Seinfeld's just a master of that. Like they're just so. Those characters are just so fully realized. I feel like they really.
And one of their Jerry's core tenets on the show was no growth, no learning, right? And so that helps. Like,
which does help, right?
It helps a lot.
Literally the same people.
You're not becoming a better person.
Right.
The last argument or the last observation of the series is the first observation of the series about the button being too high. It's like, no growth. We're just who we are for 9 seasons straight. It's like, well, yeah, that worked pretty well.
Did. Did. When you got something that works, stick with it,
Yep.
right?
Don't mess it up.
Oh,
So
man.
thank you, Justin. Incredible work. I laughed so hard watching that.
It's just like almost scary now. It's like, oh man, it's like a pressure. I'm like, I feel pressure. It's like, well, it's Seinfeld. Comparing me to Seinfeld.
Put it out of our minds. But
yeah, we gotta clear the slate.
Your little bit on the male body being grotesque, I just made me laugh so hard again when watching it.
It's true though. I definitely must have got that from Seinfeld. Like that's
must have. That was word for word. Yeah,
that was word for word. Like he was just like, oh, here's the Seinfeld version of it. It's like, oh, the exact thing. Just me having watched that episode 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I believe it too, but who knows? Maybe
who knows at this point? Yeah,
it doesn't know. I just might be regurgitating Aline. But
yeah.
All right, we got a couple other updates. We could stay on that the whole time, but we'll do some updates,
let's do
and then we got topics and all kinds of stuff. But 2 things from last week. I want to follow up on our JSON talk. That I actually know the guy who added JSON to PHP. Omar Kalani, also a friend of mine who does Remember the Milk. Yep. There was not JSON support until he added it. He added JSON encode and JSON decode.
Wow.
I don't know if they've probably been rewritten since then or whatever, but he did the original implementation. I don't remember. I think it was 2014 or
man, I remember the Milk. That was big for a while.
They're still going. He's still out there.
That's amazing.
Doing the to-do lists. And then a very small update on slippers. So I said only my middle kid was into the slippers, and me and my wife were into slippers. All of a sudden, just like it must be in the air, they come home they had to go to the mall for something, and my daughter has nice LL Bean slippers.
No.
So all 4 of the 5 of us are on the slipper bandwagon now.
Wow. Okay. Yes. It's going around.
Yeah. So we got to get you on there.
Yeah, it seems like that is my least popular opinion.
Yeah, people didn't care for your opinion there. I was kind of surprised. I thought there would be a lot more pushback on people who are like, no way, shoes in the house. We're all about it. I was pretty surprised. It was quite universal on the no shoes in the house for the most part.
For the most part, except for Boss Holly, my boss at Planet Scale.
Yes, your boss. Yes. Oh, you think she's being honest there? Maybe she just wants to stand with you. Is there any chance of that? She's just being loyal?
No, because she has all the power. She doesn't,
she doesn't
unless
need
she's
to do that, but
unless she's reaching down to the little man. I think she really does. She really does wear shoes in the house. I think. She lives out in the country. She lives, who knows where, like out in the country, and she probably has like scorpions in her house or something, and so she doesn't want to be taking her shoes off all day long,
Yeah, then the things get into the shoes. If you just leave the shoes on all the time, you don't have to worry about stuff living in there.
Yeah, and then I saw people wearing their slippers outside on Twitter, and I'm like, that's just shoes. That's just worse. That's worse shoes.
So I will wear the slippers like onto the driveway, but I try not to leave the driveway with the slippers. I'm definitely not leaving the house zone with the slippers ever, for sure.
Yeah, walking outside with slippers on, you're just doing the same thing, but in reverse.
But I do think you do want the slippers to have like some grip and an actual bottom. So they are very shoe sneaker like. You don't want those like it's just a cloth bottom. Those things are, then you're.
You know what I could be sold on, and this may be like this may be a terminology. You may think I'm insane. I could be sold on house shoes. I could be sold on that.
Yeah,
like now, a pair of maybe they're not slippers, and maybe they are just shoes, but a pair of shoes that you wear in the house only,
dedicated to the house.
Yeah. I could be sold on that.
See, I feel like if you're going to go that route, then I wouldn't go sneakers. I would go like Uggs or like something like that that's got a little slipperness, but isn't all the way down to a slipper, perhaps.
We don't need to retread the whole thing, but it just feels a little bit like giving up to put on some Uggs and like toot around the house. I can't. I don't think I can get there.
You're not there yet. You're not old enough?
I don't think I can get there. No,
you got to clear 40. Maybe when you hit 40.
Yeah, when I hit 40 and I have.
All your best days are behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand. I understand. Yeah.
Maybe I'll give up, but until then, I'm gonna fight the good fight.
All right, I'm with you. All right. So,
topic.
So I guess we'll do the big one first. Is the Laravel crew released Pulse, and you have been
Pulse.
deep into it. So why don't you
Pulse
take us through?
Pulse is very good.
Yeah,
Pulse is very, very good.
I
So
love the idea.
they released Pulse first party package. It is interesting how it's being pitched and how it could be used. So it's being pitched
Right.
as, lightweight APM, basically vital signs in real time is the H1 on pulse.laravel.com. And there's, an image of users making requests, queue backlog, cache hits, slow queries, etc. Right. So that's how it's being billed, as is like keep an eye on your server at a high level, whatever. It's all written in Livewire. Very
Woo.
dashboard. Yeah, I know the year of Livewire continues.
You're a live
Very,
wire.
very dashboard centric.
Yeah.
And the customization story is pretty good, in that you can create your own cards. And so I've dug in quite a bit in, 30-minute hour increments that I have. I've dug in quite a bit to look at how it works. And it's basically a dashboard framework. Like, yeah, you can use it to monitor vital signs in real time or whatever. You can also use it to do just about anything else. And that's kind of that's kind of what I've been working on, is making cards for a bunch of other providers. And I'm going to try to drop them all at once. But like,
I like that.
more of like a social or business dashboard than a server dashboard. And it's kind of cool the way they've done it. They've separated it into like recorders and display. So like you have one thing that's responsible for recording data and the other thing that's responsible for displaying it. And the infrastructure for recording the data is really robust, in that you can record time series data as aggregates only without storing all of the entries.
Right, the underlying.
So if you've got, 5 million requests an hour or whatever, you can just store that as like, 4 or 6 different rows instead of 5 million. And Pulse handles all of that. Like, it abstracts all of that away from you. So if you dig in deep enough and look at it, and I need to do some videos and write about it because I don't think anybody's going to dig in that far. But if you dig in deep enough, the way that they're doing automatic rollups and aggregations is very, very good. So a lot of potential here. And I think it's going to be a little bit of like a land grab to build out some of these cards.
Well, I mean, I've always wanted a dashboard, excuse me, like thing, and it's like I've tried some of those services, but I don't know, it's just never really stuck. And I just feel like, oh yeah, it's just like in your Laravel app already, and you're already using Pulse for what it's meant for. But then you can also, if it's all abstracted nicely, which it sounds like, I'm sure there'll be more stuff to do there, but that it already is at a pretty good level for being able to customize. And the thing that I think I saw from you is that you can have multiple dashboards. So that really opens it up. So it's not just like, well, here's my Stripe stuff mixed in with my slow queries and whatever. It's like kind of annoying. It's like, no, I can just have like my finance one. I can have my, APM one. I can have maybe internal app stuff and whatever. And they can all just be in their own little zone, but in the same place. So that
So
really cool.
So out of the box, you cannot have that with Pulse. But I have created a way.
You've hacked it.
I've hacked it.
Yes.
I'm going to put that out as a package itself, because I think like, and I don't know if it was a strategic decision for them to not say like universal dashboard builder, because it's like, who cares? Like, I don't even know what that means. But I think that's what it's going to turn into. I think this is going to sit a little bit in the middle of, or on one side or the other of, a Filament or a Nova, honestly.
It does have those vibes.
Yeah, to the extent that it's monitoring and not necessarily fully wired CRUD, Pulse makes way more sense than setting up one of those two things, I think.
Right, yeah, if you don't need the forms and everything and you just want the display, like, this is going to be a much nicer, cleaner way to do it, it seems like.
Yep, and I'll scoop myself, because this probably won't come out until tomorrow, and I can probably get some of these done before tomorrow. But having cards for Fathom Analytics, for Transistor, for Lemon Squeezy, for Stripe, for YouTube, having cards to like monitor all of that, that's what I'm going for. Because I want like my own personal dashboard of, all right, what's going on in the business of, the Aaron Empire, and having those things would be great. And so I'm like working furiously to get those things finished enough, because I think I have a really good handle on the data storage layer underneath, because I worked with Jess a little bit before they transformed it into what it is now. She
Right.
went away and just like drank a bunch of coffee. I don't know if she drinks coffee, but she drank a bunch of coffee and stayed up for like 5 days straight and rewrote the whole thing, like a mad scientist. But I want to knock some of these cards out to like kind of show, hey, this could be your business dashboard as well.
Yeah, that to me, that's definitely the thing I thought of instantly. I think you're totally on the right track there, and people are gonna really love that.
Yeah.
And use that a lot. Hopefully things like the multi-dashboard can just get absorbed in. You'd love to see that in the core. And then obviously then you can just have everybody, the whole, ecosystem of cards then come about around it.
Exactly.
With
Yep.
all the big players and then down into the niches and everything. Yeah, it's really exciting. I'm really excited to use it. And I thought it's great too that they give you the option to like use a separate database. So if you don't want to have it hitting your main database and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
They also have an interesting intermediate layer between. So on the recording side, you can decide to record everything in a separate database. You can also send all of your like to be written events through an ingest engine. So like you can just dump them into Redis and then run a command to more slowly or more methodically put them into whatever database you choose. And so if you're like, I don't really want any of my Pulse stuff to be, blocking or in a critical path, you can just dump it all into Redis and then work it out later, which I think is pretty smart.
Yeah, that is. So yeah, you can just have a log and it'll then aggregate from the log.
Yeah, I think it drains out the events from Redis in a command. So like if you get a huge burst of requests, you're not trying to insert all of those into the Pulse database. You just put them in the Redis storage locker, and then it'll put them into the database in a little bit.
Yep.
So
seems like a DynamoDB-ish type of use case too. I'm sure there'll be all those.
Yeah, don't bring that around here.
Be all those
I
things.
do wonder the engine is pluggable, so you could write a Dynamo engine and still have like your Redis ingest, buffer, but then go into Dynamo. And I wonder, so I bet somebody will write that.
I would think so. There's all kinds of also like dedicated tools that people may already be dumping stuff into that then they want to dump more stuff into, but then use that so you don't have a whole separate setup for that. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see, because I think people are going to really push this, like how it performs when someone drops it in on one of these huge sites that's doing a lot of traffic and all that. And that was my pitch to Jess. I was like, now we need to extract this into aggregate data functions into the Laravel database driver.
It's crazy.
Cool. There's lots of use cases for that. Like, I mean, in my own products, obviously being totally selfish here, we have all kinds of reporting and stuff where we do part of what I want to do in the new version of things is to do more along this lines, where you're not always, especially for like really heavy things, like trying to query the database in real time, do millions and millions of rows, and that's always slow and so on. It's like, yeah, you could just aggregate whatever help desk tickets, right? Like, okay, you did millions of them over this year. So certain types of reports are just like the counts of how many. And it'd be cool if it was just like a nice way to aggregate that without always hitting the database live every single time to count those millions of rows. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, I'll be curious. It does seem like, I mean, I wonder what I don't know. Taylor was just kind of like, when I talked to him a little bit offline about it, was just like, yeah, we're releasing this thing, it's cool. And so I don't know. I don't know how, if you've heard like if they were expecting it to be so big, but I feel like people are really taking hold.
All I've heard is public information, but he has sounded so laissez-faire about it on their podcast. He's like, yeah, I wrote a few paragraphs to the initial pitch, and then Tim and Jess went off and built it, and it just, when I talked to Tim and Jess, everyone has been so focused on the server monitoring story. Which I think is a compelling story and a good like tip of the spear, but I don't know that they, or maybe they secretly did, but I don't know that they had the idea that everybody was going to take it and be like, I'm going to shove everything in here. This is now my business dashboard. I don't know if that was on their mind at all.
Yeah. I think that's what's going to happen, though. I think
so, for sure.
Use case. But I do agree. Like, I think that having the set use case is sort of interesting. It's like, oh no, this is like the APM. And then that's just like what you can talk about, but then let everybody else then create the rest of that
Yeah,
ecosystem without trying to do it
exactly.
all yourself or whatever, whether they thought of it or not. It's like, it's nice if that's fleshed out by the community, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. All right. Along those lines, Christoph works at Laravel now.
He does. Yeah, he's the new video guy at Laravel now.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. I've watched a few of his things. Seems like he's going to be
Mhm.
doing more there. So I don't think he's
Video,
full
it's hot.
time. I
It's
think
hot this year, man.
Video.
Gotta be on video.
The video is so huge, even like with the podcast, like just having this video. I feel like the
Yep.
video, when you share audio snippets, doesn't do anything.
Nobody-
even though
nobody
people
cares.
don't watch the whole pod. Some people do watch the podcast as like, hey, I'm watching an hour and a half of the podcast. But
Yep.
even just having the video as a resource to then chunk up into interesting snippets is just, I think, gigantic for the podcast.
Yes, I think so. I think it unlocks a lot more shareability than just audio. I mean, even the thing that Justin just did, he wouldn't have done that if it was just audio.
Yeah, I don't think so, right? Like it wouldn't hit the same way to like have the cuts, not to the actual Seinfeld videos and things. I think it just works so much better seeing that cut back and forth. So yeah, it opens up the virality, I guess. So yeah, I think that's really smart of Taylor.
He's not full time, Christoph?
No, I think he's part time.
Gotcha.
My understanding.
Yeah, I've seen they've started to do a little bit more of like what's new in Laravel, 10 dot whatever.
Right, formalizing some of that.
Yeah, that seems good. It's just, man, YouTube is just a distribution engine unto itself. You really like, if you can figure it out in your business, you got to be on YouTube. And I feel like for Laravel, LLC, that just makes the most sense in the world to have a dedicated person working on that stuff.
I've been trying to figure this out for the help spot end of things, and I can't really it's so hard. Like it doesn't have the like Planet Scale has this nice, I can teach people about the database, like, and that's a thing people are confused by and whatever. And like we could do soft things like that, like whatever, be a better help desk agent or whatever, but it just feels like boring, generic, it's like super boring, super generic. So I don't know. I haven't cracked that code of what we could do there, but I do have my eyes out.
It is tough because you got to be like, it's got to be entertaining. I mean, even to the extent that you're teaching, it has to be like entertaining. And so, and I don't know how many, developers hang out on YouTube, but do a lot of either people who buy help desk software or help desk people themselves hang out on YouTube.
Right. Well, and the thing is, I'm sure they do, right? But it's that they aren't looking for things in the same way that like a developer's on there being like, what the hell is a foreign key, right? And like then they might look on YouTube for that, and then they're gonna find your thing about foreign keys or whatever, right? But they're not going home from their job. Like, so devs are doing that. Like they go home from their job and then they're like, hey, I'm doing this side project or I have this thought or whatever. The help desk agents and help desk managers are not necessarily like I go home from my job and I'm like querying about how to like be on a better YouTube. Agent, right? Like
they're looking at like
sure there's some
farming or Mr. Beast videos.
They're just
so
whatever
they're
into. Yeah, they're on there as humans, but they're not necessarily looking for stuff for their job. So I think that's a little bit trickier, but
must be nice. Sounds healthy to like just go home and watch videos about other stuff.
Not do your do 4 more hours of your job. Yeah.
So you're telling me I can just log off? That's an option? Huh. That's interesting.
Have a hobby. Do something else.
Never heard of
my hobby my job also.
Makes no sense to me.
Yeah. So
I don't know what your strategy would be.
Yeah, I don't know. If you think of anything, let me know. If anybody out there has any ideas, I'm open to suggestions. But this is where like the SEO has always been pretty good for us because it's like people are just directly searching like best help desk software or whatever, like they're like, I'm buying right now. This is the thing I'm buying. I need this tool. It's not like a sexy tool. I'm not like super excited about it necessarily, but I'm searching for it right now. And that's not the way people really use YouTube as much. For certain areas it is, but not in general. It's more like product reviews somewhat and things like that. But again, B2B is not so much like that. I don't feel like there's that kind of mindset there. So I don't know, but all right. So why don't you talk to us more about YouTube? Because you've had some big success was announced
making it work. Yeah, let's see what the numbers are right now. So Planet Scale has officially hit, switching accounts to Planet Scale, 27,372 subscribers.
And when you started doing these videos, they had like 1,000 subscribers?
1 or 2,
yeah, something like that, small amount.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been, let's see. I think Sam, the CEO, posted something, but It's been fewer than 6 months that we've been doing these videos, and we're up, 25,000
Yeah, I mean,
subscribers.
his post was, I think, was August or something, right? It was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
so it's like 3 months or whatever. It's crazy.
it's
4 months.
crazy. Yeah, so like
And how long have you
I
worked there though? You've worked there a little longer than that, right? Because didn't you
just
go
over
just
a
start with
year.
that big Okay, so
Mhm.
you were doing other stuff first, or you were just working on that big course
Yeah.
first, or
I
how'd
worked on the
that go?
big course first. I did some other little stuff, like I was, writing articles, and
Right.
I built like a demo. I actually built it in Livewire. I built a demo for like our Planet Scale Boost product for our salespeople
Mm,
to use. And so then I launched the course in February, and kind of that was like the first big public thing I did. And the course was,
mm,
big success, great, totally worked. And then kind of just like did content and did the stuff for a while. And then I think it was in maybe June, I was like, hey, what if I post a Planet Scale YouTube video? And I posted one and was like, hey, this is kind of fun. I could do this. I could make more of these. And so then I just kind of started, playing around with it. And then it started to hit. And
right.
then I basically went to Holly and was like, what if I just make this my full-time thing?
Right.
Like, what if I am solely responsible for growing, the top of the funnel through YouTube? She's like, great, let's do it. And after that, it's just off to the races.
Because the big MySQL course wasn't on YouTube, right? Like that's just
Correct.
on the website or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
so we get our, whatever they're called, MQLs, our marketing qualified leads. People come to the course, they like watch a few
right.
videos, and we get their email, and then we follow up with them, that sort of thing.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
amazing. So 3 or 4 months to go to, have 20 whatever
I
thousand,
know.
25,000 new subscribers.
I'm getting that silver
They
play
must be
button,
very
man.
happy. I know.
They're very
That's gonna be
happy.
crazy.
Yeah, they're very happy. We're all very happy.
Yeah. So what's your personal channel at though? Is Planet
Personal's
Scale
almost
stripping you?
It is, yeah, because I'm able to put out more videos there.
Right.
Because the main thing is that Planet Scale pays me money, so it's
that is motivating.
Yeah, it is motivating. I think let's check the personal channel. I think so. I'm at 14,732. So from the beginning of this year, fewer than 100 to 15,000. That's pretty good.
Man.
And I have in the last 28 days, I've earned $186 off of YouTube. So you can see why Planet Scale gets more of the energy.
500x, you could make a okay salary or whatever.
Yeah, I'm making many tens of dollars for all of my efforts. But yeah, this is growing very well, and I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, they must be super happy. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, you can't share super details, but I guess just like ultra high level, like is it effective marketing? Like, do they feel like it's effective, the powers that be in the marketing?
Ultra high level, everyone is very happy.
Okay. That's great.
We have a long-term strategy of like how it's going to work. And we're in phase 1 of the strategy, and everyone is very happy with the results of phase 1.
Awesome.
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a lot of fun. It's a whole lot of fun. And bringing on Steve the editor was a huge a huge unlock for me.
Yep.
Because one, he's really talented. First of all, he just can make better stuff than I can. But two, it releases a lot of the pressure of me having to edit everything personally. And so he can do like motion graphics and everything. I think he's still contract, but I think he works for us pretty much exclusively. But
so do you have to give him a lot of notes, or how does that whole relationship work?
That's the thing that is shocking, is he's a developer. So he's one of those that's like building a SaaS on the side, and is a Vue. I don't think he's Laravel, but he's a Vue developer, and primarily has used Postgres historically, but is also a video editor. And so when we were interviewing him, and he was like, yeah, I edited videos for bodybuilding.com and helped grow their channel to 4 million. Also, I saw that y'all use Table Plus in a lot of your videos. I use Table Plus. I'm developing my own SaaS, and I use Table Plus. And I'm like, you're a video editor for bodybuilding.com, and you know what Table Plus is?
How does
you're hired. Yeah.
It's hired on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's great. Yeah.
So no, I don't give him a lot of notes. He knows
Right.
he knows the
He
content,
gets what you'd want to see there and
and
whatever. Yeah.
it's doubly helpful because he's an avatar of the audience, because he's
Right.
not a database expert.
Right.
And so I can go to him and be like, "Hey, is this like general topic interesting to you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I would want to know how that works." Or like, "Nah, that's too in the weeds. I don't care about that." It's like,
Yeah.
oh, "Okay, cool." So he's a smart person, but kind of a database normie. And it's like, that's who I need to target.
Right. Those are the people we're after.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's
yeah,
very
it's
interesting.
working, man. Just got to
That's
keep it
so
going.
cool. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I mean, how has it been since you've been out? And I don't think has there been a video since you've been away?
Yeah.
Okay, there
They've
has been.
posted. They've posted 2 since I've been out.
Okay, because I know you had some in the can there. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess we haven't seen what it's like if you're not posting really, but it's like
Yeah.
once you reach a certain level, you will still gain followers even
Mm-hmm.
without obviously new videos help, of course. But once you're kind of in the algo and the plant scale ones are so, they're long-term valuable there. They're not
Yes,
just like
exactly.
news for today. They're like, hey, this is how this thing works, right? And so that's going to be good forever. So, or a long time anyway. So,
yeah, they've posted. It looks like they've posted 3 since I've been out.
Oh wow!
And one of them has 97,000 views. Just looking, only revealing public information. You could go to the Plant Scale page and see this, but it's 97,000 views, 23,000, 37,000. So it's crazy. Those are big numbers.
Yeah, and those are all you.
Those are all 3 me. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have some more. Are you out of canned ones yet? Or they're still going?
No. They're still yeah. There's still probably
you got it.
There's still probably 4 or 5 more that
beautiful
they have in the can, and I think Steve the editor is working on one that's like a fully animated explainer video, which I think will be a really interesting experiment. But I don't even know what it is, so I'm excited to see it along with the rest of the world.
And I saw the Boss Holly is also up in her video game, so I guess she might get into the YouTube streets a little bit here at some point.
I'm trying to introduce more of the characters on YouTube. So I talk about Steve the editor, I talk about Boss Holly, and so that we can start bringing more people on the channel and it not be kind of like maintain the consistency.
This is really interesting though, because like I feel like I don't know if you know who Doug DeMero is. It's like one of the biggest car YouTube channels. So it's just it was him doing YouTube videos about cars, new cars, old cars, whatever, reviews, and then he got really big. He has like millions of followers, blah blah. He started this website called Cars and Bids, which is like a
I know
car
that.
auction website. So that's his thing.
Okay.
And then he's gotten investment for that, and I think that is profitable already anyway. And so that's all great, like the platform and blah blah, blah all the audience and everything. But then what he did recently is he got this investment of like a lot of money, like $100 something million or whatever. And so he added more people to the
content side.
To the content side.
Interesting.
And oh man, it's really hurt. I feel like it's very much hurt the channel. Like I don't know if it's actually hurt the channel. Like maybe it's fine, right? The numbers might all be great. But for me as a viewer, like I watch way less Doug DeMero because there's like all these mixed in ones now where like it's somebody else. And like I love Doug. I don't want this other random person. And they might be great, but I don't want that. I don't want that random person.
That is a risk. You go pro.
It's like the balance. It's the balance. I mean,
I've heard
characters is one thing, but then when they like take over, I feel like that's a different thing. And it's like, obviously it's a corporate channel, so it's even totally different there for like a Plant Scale, but still it is very interesting the like personal relationship you get with the YouTuber and how that impacts what you can do and how it affects things.
Yeah, somebody was talking recently about some of these creators that have like leveled up and gone pro and how the content has suffered because of it. And I'm curious, like I think Ali Abdaal was one that was mentioned. Like it just became so like polished and highbrow that people were just like, this isn't interesting anymore.
Right.
And it isn't. It seems like there's like some sort of life cycle or arc to this kind of stuff. And if you can retain what originally was compelling, but scale it up, that's the ticket. But it seems like that might be hard to do.
I do think it is tricky. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, there are obviously other channels where it works too, where it is like a team or whatever, a group of people, but It is an interesting challenge. Even
Mm.
I think the business aspect of it is very interesting too, of like investing in somebody. And from a business perspective, it's like if I make this person the face of my business, like what that implies, and uh the economics of that are very interesting. And so like there's a lot there, which are obviously I'm not gonna put you on the spot for,
Yeah,
but
please don't put me on the
but as a business owner, when I think about doing it, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
if I hire somebody to do this, it's like, yeah, then it's a huge success. Like that's like a good problem, but it's a potentially tricky problem in many other ways. And and that whatever, keeping them happy on one hand, and when they go on at some point just to do something else, like now you've lost like the face of your YouTube channel, which is a big thing. So but I mean, it's all good. You'd much rather have that problem than not have that problem. Of course, it's like, oh, I built this huge YouTube channel and whatever. If like I have to find a new face, then I could do that. Like that's a good problem. But still, it is very interesting in this world of social media to have a corporate face be a person in that way. It's kind of a different thing than you really had in the past.
Many interesting questions, Ian.
Right.
What else would you like to talk about?
So let's move on. Should we go on to my sage advice? We'll do some sage advice section.
Yeah, you've been mixing it up, man.
DHH corner. Can we do DHH corner?
You've been stoking the fires with some reductive takes, I think.
Reductive.
You're reducing it. So tell us your hot take.
All right. So DHH was on an interview, which I actually think was really good on this interview. And I didn't watch the entire thing yet, but I agree with actually quite a bit of what he says. But he's talking about the new once.com thing, which we've covered on here before. In some ways, I don't even have that much to add. I feel like what we covered before is still my complete valid take. Okay. But
and this was DHH on Jason Calacanis's This Week in Startups. And we'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll get that linked up. But yeah, he basically just revealed that the first product is a Slack competitor. And there was not like a lot of other details around it. But, he implied that it's going to be like, I guess, just an actual one-time fee. I mean, definitely some of this thing asterisk here.
Based
maybe
on the domain, it seems like they're kind of leaning in on the one-time thing.
Yeah. So, and his example was like he knows Toby of Shopify, and Shopify spends millions of dollars a year on Slack, and that they'll be able to replace that with the Slack competitor for $1,000 one time. And so I just think the whole thing is ridiculous. Like that's just what it comes down to. Like it's just ridiculous.
That's not what an argument.
Want. Okay, here's the thing. So I have sold on-premise software for 20 years. I know a lot about on-premise software. We sell a cloud version. And I think I tweeted this out, but like we have had hundreds and hundreds of customers move from the on-premise version to the cloud. In HubSpot's case, you can go both directions. You can also go cloud to on-premise. I can only actually remember one customer actually doing it. I think there's probably been a few others. So I said like less than 5. Okay. But this is just not a direction businesses want to go for many reasons. And those reasons are all tied into why Shopify can't replace their Slack installation for $1,000, because you need support. You need updates I guess they're going to give updates forever, I'm assuming, but I can't imagine they're doing support.
No.
So this is going to be an unsupported Slack product that my whole Shopify is going to use this thing, right? And this business critical application that's way beyond just like the geeks, like it's going to be in marketing, and all these different departments are going to be in their Slack. And like you're just going to have a huge group of people and servers and costs involved in running this $1,000 Slack installation, right? You're going to have at least one, probably multiple dedicated, expensive engineers to it. Then you're going to have 3 or 4 other ones that are like round the clock, uptime, because Shopify is not closed, at 5 p.m. I'm sure there's people working 24 hours a day there, and that Slack needs to be up 24 hours a day. So you're going to have them. You're going to have lots of servers. Like you're not going to just run this on some DigitalOcean file. This isn't AaronFrancis.com where a static site or IanLansman.com where you can throw it up on a DigitalOcean. Like you're going to have
Vapor or Laravel Vapor.
I mean, they can use Vapor, but it's going to be a big Vapor install, and they're going to pay AWS a lot of money, right? I think great use for Vapor. If I don't know, Vapor probably can't run the Rails app, but whatever. The idea being you're going to have tons of costs and tons of responsibility, and you got to secure it, and you got to keep it from getting hacked and all this stuff that nobody wants to do anymore. They don't want to do it. And the people who want to do it are very particular use case people. It's like, I'm a bank and I already have all this infrastructure. I already have all these people. And I have a certain set of regulations and different things that I have to deal with. I have no choice. Yes, I want it on premise. Fine. But that's like 5% of the market. That's
enough of the market. Okay, so here's
why those people don't want an unsupported version of Slack either. They do not want unsupported Slack. They do not.
I don't know. Okay, so here's why it's reductive, I think.
All right,
because
give it to me.
Your tweet is something like, I don't even need to look it up. I'll make it up and I'll make it up and it'll still be right.
Make it up.
No, nobody should run their own Slack to save $100 a year. That's basically your tweet. I could write it myself. Yeah, sure. That's your tweet.
That's like an amalgamation of two different tweets. But yes, that's the core idea.
That's a reduction of your reductive take. So I agree with that. Nobody should run their own Slack to save $100 a year. I think the people that this would target would be people that are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to Slack. And so I think the reason why Slack is a good starter for them is because Slack does become prohibitively expensive for very, very large companies. Even at PlanetScale, we only have 100 people, and I think our Slack bill is very expensive if you want like message retention over, whatever it is, 10,000 messages, or I forget what it is.
Yeah, but it becomes like $12 a user or something. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know the pricing. But so take somebody like Shopify, thousands of users,
right?
Potentially thousands of engineers. I don't know. I would imagine they've got at least several hundred engineers. And what is Shopify really good at? Running a freaking Rails app. And if this if this Slack thing is a Rails app, which it is,
I'm sure it is, right? Yeah.
They have the operational expertise to spin up a new Kubernetes cluster or whatever, and that's pretty much their bread and butter at this point. And so they could throw some other service on it. And maybe they do hire one, individual to babysit, the once Slack or whatever. They could still come out several $1,000s ahead. And presumably this isn't just like a one-to-one clone. Maybe DHH and et al. Have some sort of special thing where you can customize it for your org, and it's like that makes it really cool and that makes it a lot better, and you can have single sign-on for not amputating an arm and a leg, and it's like, oh, maybe this is better. But I think people saying like, hey, you're a bootstrap company of 5 or 10 or 30 people and you should host your own Slack instance, that seems silly to me. But it feels similar, almost kind of like to Vitesse, which is the open source database that PlanetScale runs. Like HubSpot, for example, runs Vitesse. It's open source. They have 5 engineers that are like dedicated to running Vitesse.
Right.
And it's like, you don't really get any support at all with that because it's, it's open source, but there's a whole community built around it or whatever. And you could make the same argument that like, hey, HubSpot, you really shouldn't be in the database hosting game. Like messaging is even more ancillary, of course, but I don't know. It just feels like there is a company or a size of company or some set of factors where it's like, this makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, I definitely think it makes sense for the free Slack communities where it's like free or semi-free Slack communities, right? Where it's like, you can't have over 1,000, whatever. There's all limits Slack has. I don't even know what they are, but like people have these big communities and they have to pay something and they can't, obviously, because it's like a free community or whatever. So like, instead of going to a forum or something like that, like, yes, here's this Slack thing that you pay them $1,000 one time, or maybe it's less if it's that kind of use case, and totally makes sense. I think that's great. Totally works. See, I don't think big companies think about it at all. Like what you're describing is the issue, is that like, it's not, first of all, like even $1 million is not a lot of money to a big company. And like, so, and they're going to want all the other stuff. When the big company says, we want to buy this tool, that even when we're going to host ourselves, like they want support. Like they are not going to dedicate all these people to this thing and not have support unless they have no choice. So like, like an open source Vitness or whatever, right? Fine. Like there's not a lot of ways to shard MySQL. You want to use MySQL, I'm sure there's some other options out there, but that's the biggest one, I think, or one of the biggest ones. And so you do what you have to do to run your whole business. But the messaging, like I could just buy Slack and never think about it again, right? And even if it costs me $1 million, it's like I don't have to worry about it. And I think people, I don't know, I feel like they've even got kind of are thinking about it from the dev perspective, and I don't think that's the way businesses think about it. I think when I make this decision as a middle manager in a company, right? And forget Shopify in the sense of like Shopify knows DHH super well. So maybe Shopify really will do this, right? Because whatever, they're best friends and whatever, fine, great. But if you're just a generic company and you're just like, all right, we spend $500,000 a year on Slack. I'm the guy in charge of making this decision. This is not my money. And we have billions and billions of dollars in revenue. Or hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right. So so if I have a $500,000 Slack bill, that implies I have hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, right? I can't really have a Slack bill that big without a lot of revenue.
Your headcount has to be pretty big. So
it has to be huge, which means my salary is right. Exactly. It just implies that. So then the downside for me is I get fired when I move us to this unsupported $1,000 one-time payment thing, right? That's the downside. The upside is I saved us $500,000. That's not a good trade-off. There's not a lot of managers who look at that trade-off and are like, man, that's an awesome trade-off. Like the upside is I get a little win for 1 year. I saved us a few bucks and then everybody forgets it forever. And the downside is I get fired if this thing ever goes wrong.
When it goes down in the middle of the night,
Yeah, and somebody's like, why the hell were we doing this when we could just be paying Slack and they manage the uptime and we don't have to think about it? We had to hire these 3 people to manage it. And now after 3 years, their salary has grown to where we're paying $750,000 for these 3 people to run this Slack thing that was supposed to save us money. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, maybe the actual offering is different. Maybe they're going to have a big support thing and they're going to really go after it, right? And try to be enterprisey. But he doesn't ever talk like that. So
no, I don't think
that's the case.
I don't think they're going to do that.
I just don't know who it's for. I mean, a lot of people are going to buy it because everybody wants to see DHH's code. Like nobody's seen DHH's code. I think they're going to sell 10,000 copies day one on people who want to see a production DHH product. Boom. That's for sure. And they're going to have fanboys. They're going to have people who run their own stuff and are super into hosting.
Yeah, they're going to make $10 million off of this.
I'm not saying they're not going to make money. I'm not saying they're not going to sell any. They will sell some. They will make some money. But that's also because they just have a huge audience and they have a very devoted fan base and all those things. But I just don't think these big companies are going to be like, yeah, let's use this Slack replacement. Like, to me, if anything, it's going to be more the small companies because they're like, whatever, I'm the owner and I make the decision. I'm willing to take the risk. I think that is true. Right? Yeah. Like, if it goes down, it's on me. I said to use this thing and we're going to use it and fine. But I don't know. Slack is just so much bigger than just messaging too. Like, I mean, it has hundreds of integrations, thousands of integrations. I don't know, a lot of integrations.
Yeah, and I don't think the once version of it will. And I think that's part of
can't, right? Not day one. Like maybe it has a few core ones, right? But it can't have 300 integrations day one. I think that's very unlikely. So
no, I don't think so. And I think I feel like part of what you're saying is like it's going to be so operationally complex to run, and I don't know if that's going to be the case. Like, is this the kind of thing that you could just like push to Heroku and have a Postgres database on Heroku and it just like it works? I mean,
for Userscape, yes, but for Shopify, not for Shopify.
Maybe not for Shopify.
Right.
But again, Shopify's already got hundreds of engineers that know how to run and scale Rails apps, right?
But they all have other things to be doing too. Like they're not.
Do they? Who does anything? Like what? Nobody's doing. They got too many engineers.
People are
nobody's
more
working.
Siloed in those big companies.
No, nobody's doing anything. When you have that many people, everybody's got Slack. They're downtime. I mean, they're just hanging out.
Somebody's responsible when it goes down. If it's down at 2 a.m. on Christmas, who's in charge of that? I don't know. Like, somebody's got to be in charge of it.
I feel like they're simplifying. My guess is they're going to simplify the piece of software to where you don't have hundreds of integrations. Maybe you receive webhooks and everything else you got to figure out, right? You don't have screen sharing, you don't have huddles, you don't have themes, you don't have all this stuff that Slack continues to bloat up with. And it is operationally ready for Heroku or Maersk, which I think is their deployment thing they've invented.
And so you camel, whatever thing
whatever you
there,
can just presumably point it at a DigitalOcean box and it'll self set up. That would be my guess. And I think
but not for Shopify.
Well, no, you're saying Shopify's
you gotta have high availability. You
that's
have to
fine.
So right? There's all kinds of stuff to it.
Let's talk small SMBs then. So you're talking 50 people.
Right, fine.
You're talking 50 people.
Fine.
And you throw it up on Heroku, and suddenly you own all of your data, which who cares about that? I don't care about that. You own all of your data, and you're not paying Slack these exorbitant fees. And I think the problem with doing Slack first is everybody's going to have Slack open anyway. So now my company's Slack is in like this once.com thing, and all my other Slacks are over in this other thing. Like, I feel like that's going to kind of suck a little bit.
You mean if what do you mean?
I mean, as a user, I'm logged into like my friend's Slack and my open source Slack, and then I got to switch
like
over.
Social networky aspect to it. Yeah. That's a big thing for sure. I mean, I don't know. The thing is, a small medium business, like, all right, I have 50 users at $12 a user a month on the top.
Is that what it is? Do we have real numbers on that?
Yeah, I just looked at this the other day. I mean, there is like then an enterprise one that adds like really enterprisey stuff, but that presumably if you're 20, 30, 50 users, you don't need that upper tier. So that one's a call me price, but the highest public price tier is
for business.
So I mean, that's $600 a month. I mean,
when paying once a year, so that's how they get you. So it's $15 a month to month.
It's not expensive. I mean, I pay Ahrefs $100 a month, so I can go in there once a month, if that, and poke on our SEO. Like I have literally 20 apps I pay $100 a month, and half of them I don't even use. So I don't know, and we're not that big, so I just think that's not a lot of money. I don't know. Everybody was like, it's so much money. It's not much money.
$15 a month times 12 months in a year. I knew that one. That one I had memorized. Times 50 employees, $9,000 a year.
Not even 10 grand. I'm paying 10 grand to Percona
that's not that much money.
for 3 days to fix our database server. Like this is like for 50 users all year long to use
that's
Slack.
Not that much money.
And I never have to worry about it down.
Let's
I never have to back
times
it up.
100 users, 18,000. Wow, it doubled. Yeah, that's not that much money.
It's just not that much money. Everybody's salaries $100,000 plus, but this thing that is that everybody uses all day long, it costs me $18,000 a year if I have 100 people. That's not even one person's healthcare. But so I'm just not making big business decisions like this to save one person's healthcare. I don't think that math makes any sense at all. Again, unless there will be people with special use cases, fine. Like you're running some high security thing where you have your own, you want security beyond Slack. Like you want everything in house because you're some military contractor. Well, fine, great.
They have Gov Slack at the very bottom. If you're a government call list, they have that. Yeah,
exactly. So, but fine, whatever. You have a culture in house of security and wanting things done your way. There are definitely those people out there. But this is a very edge case type thing. On premise is now an edge case situation. And
so what's your main argument? Other people shouldn't pursue this as a business strategy, or this isn't going to work?
I mean, I don't think it's going, again, this is so like, because everybody's going to be like, oh, you're an idiot. Look, DHH just said they sold 10,000 copies. And I totally agree.
I had that in my show notes for the next show. I'm ready to say that to you. Yeah.
They're going to sell 10,000 copies or 100,000, whatever. They're going to sell plenty. I'm not even saying they won't sell it because they are them, right? But
yes,
I just don't think you're going, what he is portraying it as, what the once.com website says and what he is portraying it as, I don't think is what's going to happen. And maybe they'll be able to roll out a few companies and hey, look, Shopify uses it, fine, whatever. I do not think
you don't think the industry is swinging.
You are not going to see the industry swing. I think that Slack's not even going to notice this thing. I mean, some sales reps inside Slack is going to be annoyed that like they lost a Shopify account, fine, whatever. But I don't think that it's going to be like you're going to see Slack. I I don't know. Even I mean, Slack. Even if they did, like Slack could crush them in a second and just be like, we're gonna have Slack on premise, and people will pay $500,000 a year for that. For those very edge case uses where people want some, for whatever reason, need it to be actually internal. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'll be fine, whatever. It's like they're never gonna. I just feel like it's definitely not gonna be Basecamp, right? Let's put it that way. It's not gonna be Basecamp. It's probably not even gonna be Hey. It's a cool thing they're doing to do something.
Makes a lot of money.
Does Hey? I don't know. That came up in the Twitter thread too. I wonder. I'd be very curious about how much Hey actually makes.
I think Hey makes a lot of money.
I think it does what we would consider a lot of money, but I don't think it's like a tiny percentage of Basecamp.
I think everything is under a tiny 10%. Percentage of Basecamp.
Yeah. So, but I mean, think about like getting up in the morning.
What does it make? $100 million a year?
Yeah, more. I think more. Hundreds of millions a year. So
it's project management.
I know. So I mean, they're just doing a cool thing they want to do. It's kind of like Laravel release Pulse, right? Like, I mean, I think I would be cool for them to do is just like release it free. I mean, they're kind of doing that. They've been copying a lot of the Laravel game. This isn't the thing that came up on Twitter, but they've really been copying a lot. Like the new Rails is having a bunch of stuff that's very Laravel-ish. This whole once thing, it's like they can't bring themselves to actually do it for free like Taylor does, but like this is essentially that. Like it's like, hey, we're not going to support it, and we can't bring ourselves to make it free, but we know you all pay us anyway, so whatever, we'll make it $100 or whatever, and there you go.
Yeah, that's funny. They're basically doing open source, but not calling it open source, right? I mean, what does the $1,000 mean to them?
Right, nothing. Yeah,
but it's no support. It's source available. It's that's interesting.
I think the it's flipped a little bit here in the open source framework world. I feel like the Laravel's the big dog, and Rails is having to catch up a little bit, and this is kind of that part of that, I guess. It's like here's a way we can ship a production app. You know, all that kind of stuff. So honestly, they'll get the help desk eventually. We'll see that once help desk
Taylor, if you're listening, and if you're not listening, Ian, you should tell Taylor this when you guys hang out next. You, Taylor, should do this. You should make production apps.
Right.
And then not just sell the code. Just be like,
just the code. Yeah, I mean, Taylor could definitely do the same thing, right?
That'd
People
be great.
would love to see a Taylor Otwell production app. Like they would love to go through that code with a fine-tooth comb and see how he does things and everything. And so
wasn't Chirp supposed to be that? Wasn't that a thing at some point?
He built it. It was like built. I'm pretty sure it was like fully built. Yeah, but he didn't release it. But it was I don't know. I don't think it was was it gonna be self-hosted?
I thought it was like a SaaS app.
Maybe
he was not gonna host it as a SaaS. He was basically just gonna like use it as as a reference material.
Right. I think you're right. Yeah, they could. I mean, there is like a cost.
Can you imagine how much people would freak out if Taylor sold code? People would be like, what are you doing? It's supposed to be open source ethos. Like it's against the spirit.
While they took out their credit card and paid him for it.
while the rest of us are like, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to buy this today.
Right. I want to see what he's doing. I want to see all the little helpers and little niceties he's built in. Although I think Taylor's thing, the thing with Taylor is I think a lot of his stuff, it really is just like very pure Laravel. Like, I mean, I'm sure he has his little things or whatever, but a lot of those little things just make their way into Laravel. So like, it's like, I had to do this thing, so I put it into Laravel.
But what if he made like a Slack clone and sold it?
Like, there's an idea.
What if he made a Slack clone that had a back end, it had a native PHP, desktop front end, and he was like, hey man, I made this. It's $1,000.
I like it.
That'd be awesome.
Oh man, I don't know, man. Are you gonna use this thing on any projects? How about that?
Am I gonna use what?
The once.com Slack.
I don't know anything about Rails. I'm not gonna sign up to host that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that excited about it. Not that
excited. Not that excited about it. I am excited to see how it does. I'm excited to see, rejuvenation in the Rails ecosystem. I'm excited to see a return to simplicity. I feel like that is, for all of his faults and foibles, DHH is very much like, y'all are making this too complicated. And I vibe with that for sure. Very much on board with that take from him. And I will say the rehabilitation of DHH has been strong. I mean, I don't know if you listened to that whole podcast with him and Jason Calacanis, but he did say like, IDHH used to be a hardcore cynic and fighter, and I would just argue with everyone about everything. And I've just realized that's not what I want to do with my life. And I'm like, hey, cool, good for you, man. So I'm here for the
he's on the comeback trail.
Yeah, I'm here for the rehabilitation of DHH. I think that's great.
But
no, I'm not going to use
weird
it.
Character. Yeah, I can't. I can't. Just the Rails part of it, obviously. Like every time I've ever tried to do anything with Rails, I'm like, this whole like getting it going stories.
Getting it going.
Maybe it's
better
now, but I don't know. I never liked the getting it going story. It's like
no, they don't have a clean onboarding story.
Yeah. When are they going to get their herd? Herd for Rails is coming at some point here.
It's got to. Man, I have said so many times, if I knew the first thing about Rails or wanted to, find a niche in the industry, I would just copy everything that Laravel has done for Rails. I really would.
I feel like that's a solid game plan.
Like 4 or 5 friends together and start a little agency and be like, all right, what do we do? Pulse? They came out with something called Pulse. What is it?
Do it.
We're doing it. You don't even have to have an original thought.
No, it's so fun. Like that's the way business has worked forever, really, right? Like people would go overseas and like, oh, we discovered this thing in Europe and we brought it back here. And now we do it here. Like, and nobody knows that
coffee,
it's like,
but smaller, and we call it espresso. It's like, that's a great idea.
Exactly. Like we'll just bring it here and make it a thing and brand it with a cool brand name.
Exactly.
And now like people are all about it and mix it with whatever. And it's like, like just take. I mean, this is a whole other conversation, but like repurposing ideas and remixing ideas, like this is the way you do things. Like if you're out there trying to start a business, that's how you start a business. Like, but tech ecosystem is so like you must invent AI.
Agreed.
Like, nothing short of that. But it's like that's the dumbest thing ever. Like just do something that already exists, but put your sensibilities into it. Not like you don't have to like straight copy it, but you just put your sensibilities.
That restaurant down the street, it makes a lot of money. Maybe I'll make a restaurant
town over.
It's like, it's not that hard.
Right. And it's like look at my recipes, but
what do we have? We've got Horizon, Pulse, Nova, Envoyer even. Like if you want to do full on SaaS, you could do something like Envoyer. There's just so many things. Herd, native, PHP. There's so many things that we have that Rails just doesn't simply Shift,
I think. I mean,
that's a great
Shift
one.
for Rails, like that would be
Shift for Rails.
I think. I mean, maybe some of the stuff exists, but
like Passport, Socialite, all of that stuff. There's a question of like, how do you get rich doing it? And I think, reinventing Socialite feels like a lot of work for just like an open source product. Yeah. But if you were to reinvent Pulse in Rails, you can see a hybrid model there for sure. Like,
for sure.
You do the open source thing, and you also have a hosted version where people can add cards and stuff like that. Like,
or there's like ultra premium cards or something like the more complicated ones are paid add-ons or something like that. Like, I don't know. You don't see that as much as I would think you should for sure. I don't know why that is. Even like a Laracast, like I mean, there's lots of Ruby on Rails video courses and things, but I don't think there's like a Laracast that's like
there's
the de facto standard.
There's Chris Oliver's thing, Rails casts.
No,
is that him?
So maybe it is.
Is that him or no?
I haven't looked at Rails in so long. I honestly don't know what's going on there in the last like
Go Rails.
10 years.
His is Go Rails.
Okay.
So
that's at least out there. But I don't know. It does seem like you're always ahead when you start with an idea works and then build off that versus like trying to invent an idea that you don't know if it'll work. And then if you want to do that, then that's when you definitely got to have like VC money and all that. That's
for sure.
You need to risk other people's money with those ideas you don't know are going to work. And you give up the equity. But.
So if you're listening and you know Rails, everything we talk about, just steal it and
just steal it. Steal it from Laravel. All this cool stuff.
Go to pulse.laravel.com and just like just start copying and pasting. Just feed it into ChatGPT and say, turn this from Ruby or from PHP to Ruby.
The next thing I want to take over in PHP/Laravel land is it's super annoying to me that like all this AI stuff. I don't know how much you've dug into kind of the AI ecosystem, but and a lot of other areas too. Like it's all Python. Oh man, I want PHP. I want PHP to be the default. Like I gotta be Python. I don't want to.
Nobody wants to use Python. Nobody likes Python.
Python actually is, I have a whole Python story. But anyway, yes, I want PHP to be, or like, and tons of these sites also, like, they don't, like, they'll have all these SDKs and they don't have PHP. I'm like, how do you not have PHP?
I know.
Why? You have all this esoteric languages. I think we talked about this before, but anyway. All right. What else is up there? I don't think there's. Everybody should just go back and watch the original take if you want more on that, because I feel like it's all the same. Like the one.com pages.
I think it's going to work
everything and
fabulously well for them. And
yeah, I think they'll sell a lot because
they're going to sell a lot. And
that's why I said on Twitter, he could do, if there was a 37 signals toaster, people would buy that toaster. They'd sell out of the toaster. People would be very excited about the toaster because it's DHH, and he put his thumb on a toaster, and it would have some cool button that did something, or it was a weird shape or whatever, and and it'd be awesome, and people would buy it. But like, he could sell anything because he had a big audience. That's one of the upsides. When you get the big
that's
audience.
The meta takeaway there. You got to get a big audience. You can sell anything.
Big audience. Yes, you can sell. You only need a few % of a large audience to make it, the dollars add up to a large number.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. We're at 105. I know we have one other card that we haven't got to. Should we touch on this one quick?
Oh no, that's a long one.
That's a long one. All right.
I feel like that's a ranty one. We can't go there yet.
All right. We'll keep this a nice short one. We're giving the people long ones. Next week's probably gonna be a long one. So we will wrap it. Thanks everybody for joining us. Definitely make sure you check out Justin's video.
Yeah.
It's super good. We'll have it linked below, but definitely check that out. Follow us on the Twitter, Mostly Tech Pod, mostlytechnical.com, and email us at mostlytechnicalpodcast@gmail.com. Talk to you next week.
See ya.